Alright guys, so in this video we're going to talk about how to distribute your nutrition across a day in order to ensure the highest chance of success when it comes to fat loss. Now, when it comes to the fat loss phase, let's assume you've built muscle that you want to keep. The first thing is, are we eating in a way that's going to help us retain the muscle mass we work so hard for? The second consideration is, what helps us stick to our targets and not cheat on our diet? Is there any way we can distribute our nutritional targets across the day in order to minimize the chances of essentially going off track? And then number three really would be hunger. Are we starving unnecessarily, and is there anything we can do in order to combat that? Because essentially we want to get results, we want to keep muscle mass, we want to lose fat, we want to stick to our diet and not cheat on our diet, really make it nice and sustainable, and then also we don't want to be starving and miserable while we do it. So is there anything we can do here? Now, the first thing we want to cover is retaining muscle mass, and I think that because we want to develop a physique, a large part of that is growing muscle. We want to prioritize this in terms of the conversation, and we just know, fortunately now with a compelling amount of research, that meals, about 4 meals at least per day, is going to maximize muscle protein synthesis for most people. And this means that if you take the same amount of protein, the same amount of calories, and everything's the same, and you spread it across 4 meals as opposed to just having 1 meal, it looks like the 4 meals is going to make way better progress in terms of maximizing muscle protein synthesis, and then this is going to help you retain muscle mass and potentially for some people even build it on a fat loss phase, like beginners and things of that nature. So I would recommend first making sure that you take your macros and you take your calories and spread it over at least 4 meals a day. Now, I do say at least because preferentially, if you'd like to do 5, that's cool too. If you'd like to do 6, okay, it might be overkill, but if that's what you prefer, cool. I definitely wouldn't go over 6 meals a day because even though they might be smaller meals, we do want to allow our body's digestion to essentially heal itself by way of migrating motor complex. So essentially your gut health or your gut needs a couple hours away from food in between meals. So I think when we start to eat too frequently, it can actually cause issues in terms of our gut health that's worth a conversation. So I would definitely have at least 4 meals a day. I wouldn't move into the territory of having 7, even if your calories did allow, which I'd be surprised by in a fat loss phase. 4 or 5 is usually fine. 6 if you really want to push it. Okay, that's generally the aim. The 5 meals and 6 meals doesn't maximize muscle protein synthesis necessarily more than 4, at least not as far as we know. It's just preferential at that point. So we want to spread our food across at least 4 meals a day. So that'd be the first thing. Then the second thing is you need to have a look at when you are the hungriest. This is generally if you need to train at a certain time of the day, or you're the most busy, or things of that nature. Some people are really hungry in the morning, some people are really hungry in the evening. For whatever reason, that's completely fine. You want to look at you as an individual, and you want to essentially time certain meals or quantity or size of meals, I should say, at times in which it's going to benefit you the most. So say, for example, I train in the morning. I'm a really hungry person in the morning. I've got a big appetite for breakfast. I train soon after breakfast. I want to wake up and have a good breakfast before I train to give me energy, but also satiate me. And then after training, I'm probably going to want to have another big meal. But say, for example, I'm not that hungry in the evenings, I can kind of taper down my calories to the evenings, whereas I'm still sticking to at least 4 meals a day. That could be 4 or 5. The meals just get smaller as the day goes on. So hopefully that makes sense. So that would be the second consideration. I think the third consideration is, generally speaking, there's a lot of people out there that have quite high appetites when it comes to a fat loss phase, obviously, but it's very different person to person for reasons I won't get into. And there's a lot of people that benefit from having more frequent meals. So in the past, I've prescribed the client 4 meals a day, calories and macros equated, and the 4 meals a day, they were fine, but they were more hungry than they would like. And then all of a sudden, I gave them 5 meals and a snack, and the calories and macros equated, and I spread things out more evenly across the day, more frequently. And purely psychologically, because they always had another meal to look forward to in not that far away amount of time, it kept them mentally a little bit more settled. They always had food to look forward to. And that can be a great tool as well. So really, when it comes to fat loss, we're trying to look at what's going to essentially maximize muscle protein synthesis. We essentially do this by having at least 4 meals a day. Anything more than 4 seems preferential. We also want to look at when you're hungriest the most and when you need the energy the most. Ideally, we're prescribing meals around the workout window and also making sure that an individual has some decent calories for when they're the hungriest. If you're somebody who's very hungry in the evening, then you're going to want to save some calories. And let's say, for example, I'm I'm terrible I can't fall asleep without some food in my stomach. So for me, I always leave a few hundred calories about an hour and a half before bed, and I have something sweet in the evenings because I get sweet cravings. So I just know if I have some low-fat Greek yogurt with some dark chocolate and fruit in it, it really combats those sweet cravings in the evening. It keeps me full, and it's a way in which I can make the diet more sustainable as opposed to just demanding that I suffer in the evenings, and ultimately I'll probably cave and have something I shouldn't have at some point. So that can be another consideration. And then also the consideration of, would it benefit an individual to have very frequent meals so that psychologically they always have something to look forward to? And for me, in order to promote sustainability for nutrition and how we can spread out our food, those are what it boils down to. I think another conversation is how can we, obviously improve training performance, and going back to what I was saying earlier on, if you're timing meals around the workout window, that's super important for performance benefits, but then also for what I talked about with the sustainability as well. So hopefully that makes sense. This is very individual dependent, but I think we all have a responsibility, or should maintain a responsibility, that we're going to try things, and if things don't work as well as they otherwise could, then we're going to experiment, understand that those are kind of the cornerstone considerations, and whatever works for you is absolutely all good if it's relative to you as an individual, and it might not necessarily work for the next person, but it's about experimenting and finding what works for you, or if you're looking after clients, having valuable conversations with those clients in order to make their life easier as well. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll see you next.